Have you ever heard the term silent majority? Have you felt like you could do more? Do you have a desire to help with local politics or make a difference in how the government operates? Is it overwhelming to think about? Those questions define me. They were me, but not anymore. This podcast is about our voice, our questions, our feelings, and working together to make a difference for the future. We believe that we must fight for our liberty or lose our freedoms. Join me as I speak to our friends and neighbors, our politicians and leaders, and discover ways that we all can make a difference in the direction of the United States. Hello and welcome to Liberty or Lose podcast. Thanks for tuning in. My friend John Fuller said we're almost upon mushroom season. And I didn't realize he was a gardener, but I guess he's not. What he was referring to is all the political signs that are going to start popping up in April. It was probably the funniest thing I heard all day yesterday. And you know it's true. They're going to start popping up. But here on Liberty or Lose, we are trying to get our Flathead County candidates on the show to talk about what their positioning is, why they're running, some of their history, so that you can better know who the candidates are. As a matter of fact, this is actually for anybody across the state of Montana that wants to have a platform. So I've offered it up to central committees. I've offered it up to our members in the 1776 syndicate, and I hope that you'll take me up on that offer so that we've got a bigger platform. Well, today I have the better half of the Skees ski team here. Ronalee Skees is on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, and I love that we can have you here in the home studio overlooking Flathead County. It also looks like construction's starting up again because spring has sprung along with those mushrooms.
It is construction season, but that is part of growth, and it's good to see.
I just read a report this morning that Flathead has beat out the rest of the state for growth.
I know, we beat Bozeman.
We
Can you
beat Bozeman.
imagine? We're feeling it on the roads, though, aren't we? And we're feeling it when we see what's going on and coming across the Planning and Zoning Commission and what's being approved in projects.
Yeah, we are feeling it. But what was amazing to me, coming from a big city in my past life, I don't even remember that life anymore. But the numbers, I thought they were going to be huge, but it's like 3,600 new residents or something like that. I said, okay, I can tolerate that. It's not in the 5 or 6 digit figures, so that's palatable.
Yeah, we are getting into not just the mushroom season, but the tourism.
Yes.
And so we're going to feel that coming up really soon.
And that's some serious growth. With that being said, though, okay, so you're running for office here in Flathead County. And I know, I will assume that it's your goal to make it a great place to not only visit and to live. So let's talk about your campaign for House District 11. And how about we start with some background on you, maybe a brief version of why you're in politics and, a little bit about how you've been involved the last, sounds like 10, 15 years now.
It has been a while. The reason why I'm involved and the reason why I'm running, it's interesting. A lot of people will ask, what are your goals? What are your plans? What do you want to bring as legislation? And I can tell you, after the time that I have spent helping Derek while he's served our community in the districts that he has been the representative, the biggest thing that I bring to the table is knowing that this is not a 90-day job.
Yeah.
This is constituent work. This is constituent outreach. This is going to Helena and being the voice of your community, making sure that your community is heard. And you have tough decisions to make. You have really difficult positions to take, but you always have to come home and meet with your constituents and continue to do the good work that they need you to do.
Real quick, for our new listeners, our new residents, this isn't the Derek show, by the way. Derek can come on his own time, okay, Derek? Real quick, give us Derek's background in politics, though, so that they understand you coming in and the roles that you've played have been really important roles as it relates to the support you gave Derek and the roles that you had to accommodate within those.
Well, and I absolutely stand on my own for Flathead County, too. I have been involved in the Central Committee since 2004, 2005. I started testifying in Helena on legislation that was going to impact our community. I have also worked really hard to make sure that our Central Committee is a strong Central Committee to help Republicans get elected, stay organized, and make sure that we get our community heard,
Mm-hmm.
not just in the legislature, but in local races too.
Yeah.
With helping Representative Derek Skees, there's a lot of work to be done in Helena, and the legislators do not have staff. And so there was a lot of time that I was reading bills and researching and finding information, as well as helping to reach out to the constituents.
Mm-hmm.
If a constituent had an issue with Department of Revenue, I would work with Derek to make sure that we were able to solve the problem for that constituent. So there's a lot of constituent work too.
Yeah. So Derek was an elected official as a legislator.
Derek was originally elected in Whitefish in 2010, served in 2011, was out for 4 years, and then went back and has served the rest of his tenure in Lakeside.
Yeah.
And that's the community that I'm running to represent now. And in Lakeside, they're a really, really awesome group of residents. I like to think that Lakeside is that group in our county that wants to be able to live their life the way that they have seen and enjoyed, and they just want government out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up Lakeside. Side note for all you new people here, I've been looking at property down there. We love where we live, by the way. But it's like, what would it be like to live down in Lakeside? And I've seen, kind of the infrastructure down there and how it's mapped out. And I really appreciate what's been created down there and, how people live.
I also want to clearly state that House District 11 is Lakeside, Summers, South Kalispell, all the way over into Smith Valley.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty big area, and there's a lot of walkable areas, but there's a lot of places that I have to drive up to a driveway to knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm Ronalee Skees, and I want to hear from you today." So it's a real diverse part of who we are here in Flathead County.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Just thinking about your background and your relationship, not only with Derek and his elected roles, but some of the roles that you've played. When I look at other candidates across a lot of the platforms that are running right now, they talk about what's good for the community, and I get that. It's important that they understand the community. But what's missing in a lot of those, and I believe you bring to the table, is that understanding of how Helena works.
Oh, yes, the process.
The process.
Not just the process, but the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And how to make sure that you understand the rules and are able to work within the rules and also get to the end result that you're working for. Another great thing that I bring to the table is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I have built a lot of strong relationships with legislators across the state. And I know that getting legislation through is really important to make sure that you have the ability to express yourself, explain yourself, and get an understanding of those around you so that they can support what you're bringing.
Yeah. So, to look at it from a voter's perspective, it's one thing to have a candidate that lives in Lakeside and understands Lakeside, but it's another to have somebody that lives and understands but knows how to go to Helena and fight for what Lakeside needs and wants.
Yep, Lakeside, Summers, South Kalispell. So
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in the entirety of House District 11.
As you should. As you should. Hey, let's talk about some of your issues. I see on your flyer here you've got faith, family, and freedom written boldly across the top. Let's talk a little bit about those. Tell us about your faith, your family, and the freedom that you've chosen to represent on your card.
Oh, yes, you bet. Faith. I am a woman of faith. I am unapologetic on that. I see that there are so many times that we tend to back off on who we are in our Christ life, and I fully stand on who I am, and I think that it brings an opportunity to realize that we need to make sure that we're supporting our community to live with their faith values.
Mm-hmm. Talking about faith, when I first came to Montana looking for a place to live, I noticed that there's a lot of signs on the corners with the 10 Commandments. As you leave my place heading back into Kalispell, there's a sign that says, Kalispell churches welcome you. I mean, people are open about their faith here. It is literally the reason why I moved here.
I was just at a women's conference that was probably over 1,000 women were present
Mm.
to worship and to hear the word, and also to laugh and to enjoy fellowship with one another. And that was one of the really big things that I learned when I moved here. I moved here in 2003. It was that there is a great community of faith that's welcoming and that's warm and that's supportive.
Yeah. Find that interesting that we're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, and it's faith based, at least in my opinion. My pastor at Canvas, Kevin Greer, he says he likes to make fun of people moving from Oregon, Washington, California, and that's okay. But you know what? More importantly, that really stuck with me, and I think it brings us to our next topic. He goes, God is doing a work in Flathead County. He's like, so you
Absolutely.
can't ignore that. He welcomes it, and he welcomes all the new people. And with that being said, we're talking about a lot of families moving here, and you've got family as an important issue here. Talk about your family and how that relates to the campaign.
Oh, goodness, family. I think the biggest thing that I learned in family is there's a lot of diversity in family.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving dinner can be really interesting or it can be incredibly stressful. And my family, we've approached it with an understanding that we all value highly these ideals and principles. We may have a different avenue to get to there,
Yeah.
but our goal is always the same. And what I learned in that is we don't wind up turning in and fighting ourselves or each other because we keep going towards the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing on family. When I think strengthening family, it's making sure that we allow families to make decisions. We need to think about that in education, that it is not a one size fits all. Our families know what the students need to be successful. And we need to support that on a local level as well as in a legislative level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things I love about Kalispell is that it's so family oriented. I love going to the rodeo. We have rodeo tomorrow night because you run into all the other families from school or from other activities, 4-H, whatever it is. It really is an integral part of this county. So I love to see that that's on your top of your list there. And then finally, almost expected is freedom, but we've had so many freedoms taken away from us, it feels like, in the last, I don't know, since this administration took over. What's your push on freedom, and why is it at the top of your card?
Because it is a guaranteed value.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that we have as a guarantee, and it's something we need to exert as a guarantee. We need to go out and say, "Hey, look, you I want to respect you and I want you to respect me." And in that there's freedom. In faith there's freedom. In family there's freedom. And so in community we need to protect that same freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely respect is the foundation for that freedom. I think that when we talk freedom, it's sometimes we just think that it's like standing out and holding a flag, but there's also responsibility in freedom, and we need to keep that in mind too. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible to protect your rights and respect your rights, and in that there's freedom.
Yeah. I learned a good lesson about freedom, especially in Montana when I moved here. I come from these manicured cities and, HOAs, and they were going to build a church across the way here. And of course, the neighbors were up in arms. And I asked the owner of the local business, I said, what do you think about the church? He says, Jim, I don't have to. This is Montana. We have the freedom to do what we want on our properties, within reason, right? And it really stuck with me. It's been several years now. And I think it's just one of the greatest things about this state is that it does feel like we have a lot more freedoms here and what we've allowed. And I appreciate somebody going to fight to maintain those freedoms for us.
Well, and you talked about how we saw so much in the past 2 years
Mm-hmm.
happen that made us value our freedoms.
Yeah.
And in Flathead County, we were the freest county.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to be admired and respected, that it took a lot of people standing up for us to be the freest county. I admit there's some areas that there was some struggle, but that became aware and people started to fight back to make sure that we continue to respect freedom. But I also saw through all of this that there was a lot that was taken from us,
Mm-hmm.
not just our freedom, our